이게 슬로우 모션 지금.
Okay, so that wasn't me, and I'm not exactly sure what language they were speaking, but I love to snow ski. And when I'm in that much powder, that's exactly how excited I get. But there's only one thing that gets me more excited than skiing in that much powder, and that is Module 5. So welcome to Module 5, Major Capital Purchases and how to pay for major capital purchases. So what is a major capital purchase? Well, a major capital purchase is anything that you can't afford with monthly cash flow. All right? So if you can just pay for it through your monthly cash flow, that wouldn't be considered monthly or a major capital purchase. But if it's something that's more expensive, maybe a car, maybe a wedding, maybe college, maybe, investing into a business of some sort, or whatever the case may be, any major capital purchase that you can't pay for with monthly cash flow is what we're going to talk about today, because one of the biggest holes in your bucket, one of the 5 biggest holes, is how you pay for these major capital purchases. And when I first learned about this information, my life changed completely. So I truly do mean that this is my favorite topic. I was blown away when I first learned about all this, and it changes everything about how I thought about money previously. And it may change how you've been trained to think about money. Now, a lot of what we're going to cover was, not a lot, I guess, but a little bit was touched on in Module 1. For example, we talked about Finance 101. I encourage you, if it's been a while since you've watched Finance 101 from Module 1, you might want to go back to Module 1 and watch Finance 101, because this is going to kind of pick up on that topic and that conversation and take it to a whole new level. So this entire module is dedicated around how we pay for things. But we did talk about that briefly in Finance 101 of Module 1. All right, so as part of the intro to this module, I just want to review what was covered in Finance 101, which is that there are 2 ways to pay for things, right? We've got financing options, which is where we borrow the money instead of using our savings. And then there is the pay cash option, where we actually take our savings and we drain it. So just as a review, if we recall from Module 1, if there is an expense that is going to cost you $30,000, for example, maybe it's 1 year of college, maybe it's a wedding, maybe you want to invest in a business, maybe you want to put a down payment on real estate, whatever the case may be, if there's this chunk of money that you need, this major capital purchase that you can't afford through monthly cash flow, you have 2 ways to pay for it. You can either pay interest by borrowing somebody else's money, or you can give up the interest that you could have earned by paying cash. All right, so let's take a look first of all at the financing option. Okay, so watch what's happening here as we borrow $30,000 at 5% interest, and we pay $566 a month for 60 months, or in other words, 5 years, and we're going to eventually pay back that loan. However, once that loan is paid back, we will have paid $3,968 of interest. But it's not just the interest that we pay on loans, it's also what that interest could have earned. In this particular case, we're looking at an opportunity cost of 5%. What that means is that our money over here could have been earning 5% in this tank. So if we're paying all this interest of $3,968, we aren't investing that money, right? There's an opportunity cost on the interest that we're paying, because that interest could have been earning 5%. We also have to consider this $566 a month that we were paying to pay back that loan. That $566 a month could have also been earning interest had we been investing it. So when it's all said and done, our total cost of ownership, or the total cost to borrow that $30,000, is $38,501 over a 5-year window. Okay, so now let's look at the paying cash option, where we're going to take the money that we had in our account that was earning 5%, and we're going to drain it. All right, so now since we've drained that tank, we actually have to start refilling that tank at $566 a month. And if we're earning 5% interest on this account, right? 5% interest on this account, we're trying to rebuild that account. Now remember, we're not just going to rebuild it to the $30,000 that we had before we spent that money. We've got to rebuild it up to the $38,501 because that's how much that money could have grown to if we didn't drain the tank. Because remember, when you drain the tank, you give up the interest that you could have earned. So there's two ways to pay. We can either pay interest or we can give up the interest that we could have earned. So if you look here, there could have been $8,501 of interest earned had we not drained that tank. So not only do we have to put the money back, but we have to put the money back at interest, what we lost for draining that tank, which cost us the same amount of money, $566 a month over 5 years, to be able to rebuild that tank to where it would have been had we not drained the tank. So what we can take away from this is that if we pay cash, we're going to lose the interest we could have earned, costing us $38,501. If we borrowed the money and paid back all the interest and we lose all the opportunity costs, it's going to also cost us $38,501 if the 5% opportunity cost and the 5% to borrow the money, if those two rates of returns or interest rates are the same, that's when it doesn't matter whether you pay cash or borrow. So if it doesn't matter financially, then would you rather borrow the money and keep your money in cash so that you have access to it and you stay in more control of your money? Something to think about. Or if we could earn maybe a 6 or 7% return on our money and borrow somebody else's money at 4 or 5%, now we've got a positive spread and it becomes even better to use somebody else's money instead of paying cash. Now I want to take a look at this in a different way just because this concept is so important. Now we've looked at it using our tanks. Let's look at it with just a little bit different graphs here. So another way of looking at the same thing that we were just talking about. We still have our $30,000 that if we paid cash for something, which I know that is the goal for so many people because it feels so good to just pay cash. Everyone likes to brag about how they might have paid cash for a car or they paid cash for their kids' college or whatever the case may be. You get so excited when you don't have to borrow money, right? But $30,000 if you paid cash and it could have earned 5% interest, then over a 5-year window, we're looking at a time frame here of 5 years. Over a 5-year window, that interest that you could have earned is $8,501, just like we saw in the last example. So your final balance 5 years later is $38,501, right? Now let's talk about what happens when we get an amortizing loan and we borrow the $30,000. When we borrow the $30,000, if we're borrowing it at 5%, as we make these $566 payments, the actual interest goes down every year. So really, it's a decreasing interest in the sense that we're paying 5% interest on a smaller number every year. However, that $566 could have been earning interest up here, and all of this interest of $3,900, all of that interest could have also been earning interest if we weren't paying interest. So we actually have to look at not just the interest paid, but we have to look at what we call interest at interest, meaning what kind of money could that interest have earned had we not paid interest? So in other words, what is the opportunity cost on the interest that we were paying? And now we're up to $46.73, but it's not just that, because now there's that principal and interest. Because as we're making those principal payments, right, we're paying $566 a month. We've borrowed $30,000. They gave us $30,000. We've got to pay that down, or we got to pay that back, which means that money could have also been earning interest. So our total of what we would call the total cost of ownership, which is the interest you're paying, the principal you're paying that's not earning interest, All right, that interest that could be earning interest and that principal that could be earning interest, all right? And that's what we have with these 4 different segments. We have all the principal payments, we have all the lost opportunity cost on the principal payments, we have the actual interest that we're paying, and then we have the opportunity cost on the interest that we're paying. That's the true cost of ownership, or the total cost of ownership, which, as you can see, 38,501, 38,501, it doesn't matter. Now, if we change things around a little bit, let's say that we put a 7% up here, 7% on this one, and leave the bottom one at 5. If we could earn 7% on our money and borrow the money at 5%, now all of a sudden it only costs us $40,000 total, right, to borrow the money, but our money could have grown to $42,000. But that's only $2,000, I get it, but that's also only a 5-year window. So what happens if we look at this over the next 30 years of your life? Just because of that spread, just because of that difference between the two, we're looking at $196,000 versus $243,000. Now, this is a principle that I talk about a lot in college funding and how to pay for college and get all of your money back during retirement. Well, the way you pay for college and get all your money back during retirement is through what we would call a spread, or a positive spread on the money. But I want to show you one other really cool thing, is that a lot of people are not familiar. Let's just look at a 10-year window here. And let's just say that we do not have to make this monthly payment. Let's say that this monthly payment is 0. Now, think about this for a minute. Now we've borrowed $30,000, and over a 10-year window, we've accumulated interest of $9,000 or $19,000. So we owe $49,000. So we owe $49,000, but we didn't actually take money out of our pocket, right? So there's no opportunity cost on the money that we're paying towards a monthly payment. Now we have $60,000 in our account still, but we owe $49,000. Okay, so we owe $49,000, but if we wanted to pay that back, we could pay the $49,000 out of the $60,000 that we have. Now, it's even better, because what if I took my monthly payment and threw even just a couple of $100 a month, not even the full amount? What if I could just pay a couple hundred a month towards my money that's growing, my savings, just $200 a month towards my savings instead of paying it towards a loan? Now my loan is still $49,000 after 10 years, but now I've contributed at the 7% return, so my money has grown to $94,000. That is a huge deal as you start to think about where your money goes every month. Do you put your money towards what's earning interest, or do you put your money towards what's costing you interest? Which one is better? You've probably heard of the debt roll-up. Well, a debt roll-up is where you put all of your payments, or most of your money, as much as you can, towards the highest interest debt, like a high interest credit card, for example. Once that's paid off, you start putting it towards the next lowest interest debt, and then you keep going until all your debt's gone. But what about what you could be earning? So if this debt down here is costing us 5%, and this investment or this savings account is earning 7, where do we want to put our money every month? Do we want to put our money here or here? Now, who in the world is going to loan you money at 5% and not make you make any payments on it? Well, all of the stuff that we're going to cover in this module. So I'm so excited to dive into this. So click the next lesson and let's get going into the good stuff.